What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's me, Fitty Trent, and I'm joined by the one, the only, the great, the grand. AC has joined us for this recap of the Ottawa Senators versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I know all of you are thinking about it. Where's Mitch? Sadly, he was busy. He has lacrosse tonight. But if he was here, he would be finally giving his respects and considerations to the Ottawa Senators because it was more than well deserved, because we were in for a thrill of a game tonight for the Ottawa Senators, weren't we there, AC?
Oh, for sure. You know how the Ottawa Senators played in that third period didn't look great, but I think we all knew it was going to bounce back. Playing in the nation's capital at home, Canadian Tire Center, and they were ready to play. And I think getting that first goal was huge early, getting the first two early, and then Pittsburgh started to push back, and then late in the first, getting two more, 4-0. It's kind of over. And I think the big story of this is Pittsburgh's starting to get frustrated, especially Malkin thing. They got the winning goal last, but Malkin looks really frustrated out there being the star player. And Ottawa did a little tinkering with their lines. We'll get to that, which I thought kind of helped them out to have three almost top lines, or three second lines in a way. But yeah, they were ready, and we'll obviously talk about how good they were. But I think, we're kind of starting to see some issues now with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, I mean, we might be seeing a few issues, especially because, as you said, they got scored on very early. 48 seconds into this game, Mike Hoffman, yes, that's right, the great Dustin Hoffman's son. No, it's not Dustin Hoffman's son, but I wish it was. Mike Hoffman gets a goal, kind of a funny bounce, kind of just finally bounces in off of Turris from Burrows as well. Next thing you know, a little bit after that, Marc Method gets another kind of funny bouncing goal, that went past Fluery. But then, boom, immediately after that as well, Derek Brassard, his fourth of the goal, assisted by Clark MacArthur and Bobby Ryan. I know that Mitch has been saying, where's Clark MacArthur? Well, he has 5 assists in the playoffs there, Mitch. So he's obviously doing at least a little bit of something. And then this was the big ball breaker. Zach Smith, the guy who has not scored a playoff goal, I don't think, in the past 3 years, gets a goal, gets assisted by Method and Carlson. Carlson's 12th assist of the playoffs. Incredibly done. Then that's just the end of Fleury. I mean, Fleury's pulled after only facing 9 shots. He made 5 saves, but had a save percentage of .556, which was just not great to see. And you could just automatically see that Matt Murray knew that it was his time to come into the net. And, Matt Murray, he did the best that he could, and he did end up letting in that one goal from Kyle Turris late in that second period, assisted by Hoffman and Clayson. But honestly, it was just kind of a bad break for Matt Murray. We've seen this before. Very composed always in the net. I think Murray had an excellent game. And then third period starts off, and basically immediately, Sidney Crosby, trying to spark up his team, gets his 5th goal of the season, his first since the Niskanen hit. I know CBC was talking all about that. Assisted by Kessel, the one who sucks, and Streit, the new 7th D-man in the lineup. And that was basically the end of the game. They started trying to have a push, but as you said there, AC, Pittsburgh looked like they were just getting too frustrated. I mean, Evgeny Malkin, 12 penalty minutes in this game, only 9% on the faceoff draw, and only 1 shot on goal. That is not what you want from that star player, that basically when Crosby's not performing, you need him to step up. And tonight, he really didn't. He just looked pissed off. He looked upset with himself. He looked upset with his team. Kessel, yes, he did get that 1 assist. Yes, he had 3 shots, but besides that, he did really nothing in this game. Crosby was actually their biggest minus in the game on the paper with a -3. He didn't have too terrible of a game, though, since he did have that goal. He did have a couple of hits here and there, so he was trying to be physical in that way. He was only 39% in the draw, however. In fact, the only player that had a positive faceoff percentage in this game for the Penguins was the GOAT, Matt Cullen, who had just a perfect 50%. He took a penalty, had only 1 shot on goal, had a giveaway. Their defense, they had 7 defensemen, but you would never really know it because none of them played outstanding. Straight, yes, he got a point, but besides that, they were all giving away the puck. None of them were making too many big hits. I mean, Chad Ruhwedel had only 3 hits. Last game, he had something like 7 or 8. This game, he's toned it down definitely with only 3. Ian Cole, he's finally starting to hit people, but he was a -3 in this game with 2 hits. As I said, Marc Andre Fluery scared out of that net. shunned away. This is the Fluery that I was aware of and scared that we were going to see if you're a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. But luckily, Matt Murray was there to bail you out with a .950 save percentage, 19 saves. I mean, yes, he did let in that one goal, but these things do happen. And then, of course, let's go on to the winners, the Ottawa Senators. And honestly, I don't think that there was anyone that played too terrible in this game for the Ottawa Senators. They just looked like a really great, solid hockey team. Craig Anderson, I mean, hats off to you. 25 saves out of 26 shots, .962 save percentage. All their defense played very well. Carlson with a big +4, couple shots on goal. 3 giveaways for Carlson, though. That's something big. But honestly, they were able to rebound from that with the giveaways because CC Method, they were playing some great defense. Phaneuf was throwing some hits out there. On the offensive side, I mean, Burrows finally showed up with a point. We haven't seen him really do anything too drastic in the series yet, other than just being scrums after the play. He did go down with an injury, though, so that will be interesting to see what happens from Ottawa from that point out. But besides that, everyone else had a really good game. Turris, a goal and an assist. The Laxer, Bobby Ryan, 2 big assists. Zach Smith, as I said, finally got his first goal of the playoffs in how long? Had also 5 hits, 50% on the faceoff draw. Clark MacArthur, I thought, played a pretty good game. Almost played 19 minutes of hockey. I mean, Brassard, he had a bounce-back game. I thought that Brassard has actually been doing pretty poor so far this series, but this game was actually, honestly, one of his best that I've seen in the playoffs. He had a good couple points, 88% in the draws with 4 big hits as well. Honestly, Ottawa, it's safe to say they dominated this game. AC, I know I talked so much about a lot of the players, but I know that you have so much more to dive into. What were your thoughts on some of these players in this game?
Yeah, I think they switched things up with the Senators. Normally, they would have Pajot with Stone and I believe Bobby Ryan, but they put Bobby Ryan down to the third line, if you could call it that. So the first line today was Pajot with Stone, and then they added Zach Smith to that line, and that line was probably the worst out of the other lines. But with the switching of the other lines, that means Turris now played with Hoffman, and they added Burrows. They always play together. But then Bobby Ryan was playing with Brassard. So now you kind of have 3 evenly matched lines. And I think the key with Ottawa is they know they can shut down Crosby and Malkin at times, at least slow them down, because, no offense to the Penguins, but Bonino's been non-existent. The whole third line's been non-existent. That fourth line, I'll give credit to for Pittsburgh. They have been noticeable, but they're still not going to score on you. I don't think you have to be afraid of that. So I think with the way they did their lines, they have 3 lines now that can score Ottawa, and they did just that, right? And I'll give credit to that Method and Carlson, +4. And then if we're talking about the Penguins, I don't think it was – I think Crosby should have tied up one of the guys, I think maybe on the Brassard goal or the Method goal. But other than that, I think the problem is Gunsel and Sheary. You need a bigger guy playing with Crosby, getting the puck, like we've seen in the past, a Kunitz, a Hornquist when he's healthy, because I don't think Sheary and Gunsel are helping Crosby out. When we get to Malkin, I thought he was probably one of the best players in terms of offense and possession. But you can see that he's rattled out there, and hopefully it pumps him up, because I still think Pittsburgh's going to come out flying Game 4. But with Malkin, you can see every time he gets a hit or something, he's the stick's waving everywhere, slashing. He gets kicked out of the game for just chirping, and that he's always throwing the first punch, which is fine. But he seemed a little out of it when it came to the mental side. And then the Penguins defensemen, they missed assignments. They couldn't tie guys up at the end of the day. And Ruedel, who I praised last game, I thought he was one of the better defensemen, was probably one of the worst defensemen, along with Cole, who Cole probably played his worst game of the entire playoffs, who he's been kind of a staple, that they need to be a shutdown defenseman. So all that being said, Ottawa, it's great that they get the win. It's still going to be a great series. Pittsburgh's not going to play like this again. But like Mitch likes to say, one game you don't play well, okay, we'll give you that. But now this is 2 out of 3 games. That's starting to become a trend with Pittsburgh against Ottawa.
No, that's for sure. That's kind of scary to think about because, as you said, it's a trend. It's a trend in the downward position for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we saw, as you said perfectly, Ottawa changed it up. They changed it up so they had 3 great offensive lines. Tonight, we did see the 1-3-1 that they love to roll with, but we saw that in the third period. We saw that after, they had the lead, after that they scored their goals. Do you think that they need a change for Pittsburgh's perspective? What do you think that they need a change for them to win Game 4?
It's tough. Like, obviously, they need their top 2 lines to score. They need that Crosby line to score, because I think Malkin and Kessel and Kunitz are playing pretty well. With Kessel, it's like, when was the last time we saw Kessel score from one of those bad angle shots every time he takes a shot? When was the last time we saw that? Yes, off the bounce, we saw him get that goal, but you know what I mean? How many times does he just skate in? It must be difficult to play with sometimes, where every time he enters the zone, the first thing he does is just shoot, which is fine, but Anderson's proven, like, he's controlling the rebound so well. This is not a B-level goalie the way Anderson's playing. You could say maybe in his career, Anderson, but right now the way Anderson's playing is unbelievable. I think they're all going to step up. I think the big thing is they need Gunsel and Sheary to do something. They need someone to complement Crosby when he's out there 5-on-5. I think that's the big thing. And then for the defensemen, I don't really know, because without Schultz now, people always bring up without Letang, but they still were the second best team in the league without Letang. So I don't really like to bring up Letang too much, because he barely played the whole season. They were the second best team, second best offense. You know what I mean? It didn't really hurt them that much. Obviously, it hurts them. Letang, unbelievable player. But when people, like, even in the broadcast, they bring up Letang, it's like, well, yeah, last year, yeah, they could help him. But they still were the second best team in the NHL without Letang. So Schultz really hurts them, because I don't know if you can rely on Dumoulin and Cole and those type of defensemen to kind of carry them in the rest of the series. They're going to have to outscore teams. And, Ottawa might be a bit snake-bitten, and we're going to get in close games, and they might be able to win a couple that way. But they're really going to have to start scoring 3 to 4 goals a game, I believe. And we should get into the goalie situation too, Trent. I'm dying to hear what you got to think about that, because in my opinion, you have to go back with Fleury. I think that's just me, just because he has taken you this. He's stolen games for you. You have to give him at least the credit, because I don't think it was his fault, really. One of the goals, he was kind of out of position, but for the most part, they're grade A chances because the defenseman's not tying up a guy. You know what I mean? Getting guys out of the crease. So I still think you have to go back with Fleury in a way.
I mean, that's interesting that you're going to say that, because that was going to be my next question. I mean, that's my hot take, because you have Matt Murray, right? And Matt Murray was expected to be your starter this year for the playoffs. He was expected to start Game 1 against Columbus. In the warm-up, though, he got injured. Next thing you know, Fleury has to step up and be the starter. Does he do great? Yes, he does phenomenal in the first round. In the second round, he does even better standing on his head. In these games, can you blame him? No. This game, can you blame him? Not really, because as you said, there were lucky bounces. But then you look at Matt Murray, who came in, and you just look at how solid he is. And he's reminding you still that he's still that solid goaltender that he was last year when he had to make his first ever performance in the playoffs. I actually find, do you go with Fleury? Do you go with Matt Murray? You say that you go with Fleury. I actually say you go with Matt Murray now. Fleury, you know what? He got you this far, yes. But Matt Murray, he's been proving to get you even further to go to that Stanley Cup final. Fleury, he has the history of getting you there sometimes, but also not getting you those other times. Murray, I mean, yes, he's still new, he's still fresh, but give him this start, and if he starts playing bad, like if he even lets in one bad goal, immediately pull him and put back Fleury. You have a very odd scenario where you have 2 really great starting goaltenders as one is their starter and one is a backup. You can't call one a starter and one a backup. You just have 2 really great starters. You split the time with them during the regular season, and now it's kind of a conundrum of which one do you go with. I'm saying you go with Murray just because he is so much more poised. He is so much more relaxed. I really like how he's gotten you there before, but maybe you should go with Fleury just because he's gotten you to this point already. You guys should let us know in the comments right now in the chat. Who do you think? Because it is a big question mark, and it's not a question mark for Ottawa whatsoever, though, because Craig Anderson, from Game 1 of the playoffs to now, he has been one of the most solid goaltenders of the playoffs thus far. Wouldn't you agree, AC?
Oh yeah. I'd say, I had Fleury up there until today, but now he's, right behind Rene. As obviously there's only 4 teams left, but he's right behind Rene. The way he plays, the way he keeps his team into games, and how rebound control, how confident he plays out there. It's like nothing gets by him because he still made some big saves. Pittsburgh still had some chances where he needed to bail his team out, and he did. Going back to Murray Fleury, it could be the last time we've seen Fleury in a starting in net for a Pittsburgh Penguin. Because I think if you go with Murray, you kind of have to go him the rest of the way, because if you get to a situation where maybe Murray loses the next game and then you go back to Fleury, you've pretty much lost. That's a little too much movement in the net. I think if you go with Murray, even if he loses game 4, I think you got to still stick with Murray, depending on how he loses. But it's interesting because I just think flipping and flopping back and forth, I know they've done it, but in the playoffs, it's tough to do, I think.
No, for sure. I completely agree. Going to the chat real quick, we got Payo Time saying, I'm happy with the Sens win. I think that the Pens were not prepared for the offensive play in the first period. I agree with that. The Pittsburgh Penguins, they definitely looked surprised from the Senators when they started pouring it on. They were looking really well. Jeremy says, who did the Senators play today? Well, surprisingly enough, it was the Pittsburgh Penguins, even though it did not look like the regular Pittsburgh Penguins out there. It was indeed the Pittsburgh Penguins. Bodo says, hey, good news. Crosby scored, and we got a power play goal. Too bad it was a blowout game. That's actually something good to note. The Penguins have actually now finally scored on the power play. That's been kind of a consistent thing that's been happening kind of throughout the last 10 or so games of the playoffs. They've really been struggling on the power play. But tonight, they got a power play goal. Do you think that the power play might be able to help lead them in the next few games? Is that something positive that they should look on and build some momentum off of AC?
I think so, because their power play is great. You can't have that much talent out there and not, what I mean? They need to put, they have to go at least a 20% power play in this series, right? They have won now in 3 games with quite a few opportunities. So, and that was their last power play they had. They scored on it. It could be good. Just for me and the Kessel thing, people always goes and looks at the playoff stats, right? How many, Kessel's played really well. Most of the points came in that first series against Columbus. And I just hate that Kessel gets the greasy assist that doesn't really matter, just to pad to his total. I think now he has 15 points. But I guess stats don't matter, especially with Ottawa. The way they're trying to play that trap game, they could care less how they win, what the score is, as long as they're getting a win. Because, the 5-1's nice for Ottawa, but Ottawa still knows they're still playing the defending Stanley Cup champs with the 2 best players in the world, in my opinion, in Crosby and Malkin, that can turn it on at any point. They're never going to give up. I just think with the Penguins, their depth's been somewhat of an issue, right? Because they got there last year with the help of Bonino, Hagelin, and obviously Kessel playing together. And when you don't have that line, that third line, because really the fourth line I really like, Cullen, Wilson, and what's number 37, Rowney?
Yeah.
They play really well, but they're not going to score a goal for you, I don't think. They're going to try, and they're going to play tough, but they're not going to score a goal. It's where you need your third line, that Pittsburgh, Bonino, Hagelin, and whoever they're putting out there, I guess, because it was kind of just they would put whatever winger with them. But you need some secondary scoring from that third line, I think, to keep going. Or Crosby and Malkin just can go off because they can win a game single-handedly. Those 2 lines could probably – they've done that most of the season, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, very good points. I just want to say that SportsFX agrees with you, and he says that the Pens injuries are finally catching up with them. And I think we're all kind of worried about that because the Pens are the most injured team, not just in hockey, like the playoffs, but one of the most injured teams throughout this entire season. We've seen them being able to win before, but these injuries, they are starting to catch up with them. And maybe that's going to be the difference maker in this series. Do you think that it might actually be the difference maker? Do you think the Sens have a chance of beating the Penguins?
Yeah, you win game 3. It's the first time that the Penguins, they've never actually trailed in a series, right? I don't think in this playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a different situation, right? They kind of compared it to game 6 against Washington when they didn't play that great. But it's different now because now it's 2-1, and now game 4, instead of having the big, they can't afford to lose anymore. And And obviously game 5, 6 in the past series, they kind of could afford to lose. Obviously they want to close it out. But now it's really, you can't afford to lose, especially in Ottawa. Ottawa took one against the Penguins at home. Penguins need to take one in Ottawa. And it's going to be a much different game. But like we said, the Penguins are somewhat trending in the wrong direction. And Ottawa's trending in the right direction, except for one period, really, where they look like they shouldn't even be in the playoffs.
That's true. But I have to say, I'll say that I'm going to stick with my Pittsburgh Penguins pick. I mean, yes, the Penguins, they do look like they're injured, but as I said, they've been injured basically this entire season. They haven't been healthy in years, basically. They've been suffering with the mumps a couple years ago. They've never been fully healthy, and they still win games. So I'm still going to pick the Pittsburgh Penguins, but I really like what the Ottawa Senators are doing. They're looking very dangerous and very good. They're looking like a great team, which I knew that they are a great hockey team. I can admit that. Mitch can't, apparently. Continue on looking at the chat. People are saying Murray needs to play game 4. Go with Murray game 4. So people really aren't liking the idea about going back with Fleury. Sergey saying, damn, Fleury's old. Fleury's only 32 years old. That's kind of right in your prime as a goaltender. From 28 to 32, that's kind of basically your prime as a goalie. So I don't think Fleury's that old yet. I think he still has some really good years in him. AC, do you think Fleury's dried up yet? I think he's still good.
Well, I wasn't the biggest fan. Like, I do like Fleury, but I wasn't the biggest fan until he started playing really well in the playoffs. And like I've said on the recap before, Fleury before this game was probably playing the best almost of his career, because he really won some games for the Penguins when the Penguins offense is normally the ones to do that. But yeah, I still think he could be good, maybe with another team or something. He's got some years left, but obviously Murray's the better choice to go move forward with.
I completely agree with that. Everyone's now talking. Sergey says, I hope that the Ducks versus the Senators get a rematch. That would be interesting. Packard says, Ottawa reminds me of that old, boring Devils team. Well, the Devils won games when they had that old, boring Devils team.
No, for sure.
They had that trap style.
And Bobby Ryan said it the best. He's like, someone asked him about being boring watching, and he's like, we could care less, right? It's, for fans, yeah, we want an exciting brand of hockey, but for these guys, it's all about winning the cup, and it doesn't matter how they win, what it looks like to you. All they know is when 60 minutes is up, or sometimes overtime, if they're going in that dressing room winners, it doesn't matter what happened in the game.
No, for sure, absolutely. Felix St. Jean, a new guy in the chat. What's up, Felix? He says he might be selfish, but he thinks that Karlsson is the second best player in the NHL. Wait, never mind, McDavid, third best player in the NHL.
Yeah, no, and I was just saying, when I said Malkin top 2, you could put him in the top 5. I'm just saying Malkin as a playoff player, you'd have to put him top 2 with the history of Malkin, right? He's got a Conn Smythe. Right now, he's leading the playoff in points by a lot, right? He's got 20 points, I believe, right? 20 points in 15 games. You know what I mean? So that's what I just mean by that, because maybe in the grand scheme of things, no. And I think Karlsson, maybe before last game, but he still proved it again today. I think Karlsson is definitely top 3 players right now. Obviously, McDavid's going to be great, but he's not playing right now. That's why, Crosby's Crosby. I still think Malkin deserves a lot of credit for being at least top 4, top 5, every year because of what he does in the postseason.
Yeah, no, for sure. I completely agree. People are asking, where's Mitch? People are saying that Mitch is drowning in his sorrows. Well, technically, he's playing lacrosse. So you may be wrong. You may be right. We don't know.
He's taking out his anger.
Pretty much. The Penguins look like they got their wings clipped. Yep, that's a good way of putting it. Pens only have 3 goals in the series. They have to score more if they want to win. I think that's pretty much what we've been saying. Penguins have an excellent offense. They just have not been able to find a way to score against those Methods and those Phaneufs and those Karlssons. They do need to score more goals if they want to win the series, Sports FX. I completely am on your side.
Yeah, and, going into this series, Penguins were the team that were blocking all the shots. Now it kind of seems that the Senators are better at doing that, at least in the last 3 games.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So, any last thoughts of this series before we go there, AC?
No, it's just, game 4 is going to be huge. The Penguins are still not out of it whatsoever, because when you have Crosby, when you have Malkin, and you have good complementary players playing with them, and just with Crosby, it's Sheary and Gunsel scoring some of those opportunities, because he's always going to hit those guys grade A opportunities. They just been hitting posts, missing the net, one too many passes, stuff like that. And then with Malkin, Malkin's going to keep playing, right? I think Kunitz has been not the best. I don't think played that great this game. Kessel was invisible. He's got to get going again, like we've seen him in the past. But no, there's nothing really to worry about, because they're the Pittsburgh Penguins and they still can score. But like we said, now 2 out of 3 games, or at least 3 games where they can't really score and take over the game that way. Because I don't know about you, but going into this series, I thought there was going to be one game that the 5-1 would be definitely in the Penguins' favor rather than the Senators.
Oh, for sure. For sure. No, that's for sure it. And it's the kind of thing where either one of these teams should not be panicked. I mean, I think that's basically what we're saying. For the Pittsburgh Penguins, you have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have the great players that aren't playing their best hockey right now, but aren't playing bad. They're still playing solid. They're still getting underneath the Senators' skin, even though it's not showing it very much. Malkin's still being a huge thorn in everyone's side. Crosby's still working his ass off every single night. You still have a great team. And Senators, I've been saying this from the very beginning. Senators have a great team. They've been looking dangerous since game 1 to me. I knew that they'd be able to beat Boston. I thought that they would not be able to beat the Rangers. I was wrong there. So Senators, the ceiling is open for you. You can go anywhere that you want. And Penguins fans, same with you. This is going to be a competitive series. It's going to be going to game 7 probably, if not a game 6. I think both AC and I agree on that, just because it's such a good, close, competitive series between 2 great teams.
Now the Penguins fans that said Pens in 5 are now Pens in 6. We're gonna keep on switching it.
Yeah, well, they have to. They have to have that faith, which is awesome. And speaking of faith, we will be back tomorrow with one of the most faithful hockey franchises playing right now in the playoffs, the Nashville Predators, aka Smashville, 6-0 at their home ice. They are hosting the Anaheim Ducks. They currently have a 2-1 series lead. AC, any predictions for that game tomorrow?
Anaheim showed that they can bounce back. It looks like they've been going back and forth, but it's another big game. Game 4, Anaheim needs the win, right? Because if they lose that one tomorrow, it's going to be tough to come back 3-1 against a very good Nashville team.
No, for sure. They need the win. And I personally think that they probably will get the win just to tie up the series. Why not? Nashville's, I don't think, is going to be able to win every single game at their home ice. Because if they do, then they probably will win the Stanley Cup. But maybe Nashville will win the Stanley Cup. But I think that the Ducks, they have a great team. They'll be able to fight back, and they will be able to tie up the series 2-2. Check out that review tomorrow on the Bottom Line View. It will be live once again. I know I'll be there. I'm pretty sure Mitch will be there. AC might be there. We'll see. He might be there. Kev, we never know. He might show up as well. And Dilly Vanilli is talking about possibly joining the NHL recaps as the NHL playoffs progress. He's been loving what he's seen. He doesn't know much about hockey, but he wants to join us, and we want him to join us, just like we want you guys to join us. So if you like this, be sure to like it, be sure to subscribe, and be sure to comment for more awesome videos like this in the Bottom Line View. This was one of our best live streams that I've ever been a part of. We've had like 15 to like 20 people watching at a time. So for you watching right now, you guys are awesome. You guys are the GOAT. For you guys watching after, you're just as awesome. You're just the same GOAT. Especially if you comment, especially if you subscribe, and especially if you like the videos. All right, it's Fitty Trent and AC signing off and seeing you tomorrow. Peace out.